welcome to the Collector RC. Alright, as you can see, we're going to do some upgrading. And this is the Cuz's upgrade. This is his TRX4 tan. This is also something I'll let him do all the explaining of everything. I'm just kind of showing you stuff real quick. He already went ahead and removed the motor and the ESC stock versions. Yeah, so I'm going to film and I'm going to let him go ahead and explain. Well, basically, we're going to watch him work, and yeah, it's all yours.
Alright guys, this is the tan TRX4-SPORT, and I'm going to put the Hobbywing X system in it. And at this point what I'm going to be doing is just setting up, making sure my gear mesh is correct for the motor. After pulling out the factory electronics and motor, they come out really easy. It's literally a guide for the front gears, or for the gear coming out of the motor, a cup that clips over the top of that, and then that's screws down with 3 screws into the car, and that's the entire assembly of the motor. It's really, really easy. So if there is anybody out there kind of unsure about maybe taking this kind of part of this car apart, it's really easy. They do a good job of making sure it's easy for us to do. So what I'm going to start doing now is putting the motor in to make sure that my gear mesh is okay. Otherwise I'll need to adjust the motor plate against the motor. And when I did pull it off of the factory motor, it was in spot A, and I thought I remember seeing from a video that you needed to move it to spot B, but I tried that and the mesh was way off. So I now have it back in the factory position of A, and when the motor sits in its correct position, this should slide back on and then hold it firm in place for the gear mesh. It's not a guaranteed science, but if I roll the car forward, yeah, I can tell that the gears are meshing and I can hear them, so they are definitely touching. So that's when I pull the cat back off, the gears look like they're in a pretty good spot. I'm pretty new to meshing these gears on this small of a thing here, but it really doesn't seem like it's too hard to do. So now that that's good, one of the other things I'm going to want to do is these leads that are really long, these are going to end up being soldered connections to the back side of the ESC, and Hobbywing made it really easy. These wires are labeled A, B, and C, and then the solder points on the ESC are labeled A, B, and C. If you know how to solder, if you can get that part figured out, the rest of it is kind of idiot-proof. Making sure you don't do it wrong. If you solder it in the wrong space, you just weren't paying attention. So for the solder on this, the collector here is the resident soldering expert, so he's going to be doing that for me. But if this system were going to permanently sit in this car, at this point I would probably shorten these leads down. The ESC is going to sit here where the factory one was. These don't need to be anywhere near that long to get there, so I could tidy it up. But because I might put this in a different car later, I'm actually not going to cut these down at all. I'm just going to make it work for now, keep it as tidy as possible, but right now that's what I would be measuring for. These I'm not going to cut at this point. So after setting up my gear mesh, so that's correct, I know when that's tightened down, that's going to be in the right spot. No need to cut my wires, they're going to be soldered for the length that they're at now. I can go ahead and pre-mount my ESC, which will be stuck on with some 3M style sticky tape, and see which way is going to make the most sense for the solder connections, powering the fan, and putting the on-off button. So, and the original idea is to put everything right back in place where the factory stuff was, if the wire leads will let me, just because I know it'll all fit. So far, that seems like it's going to work pretty good. Just got to figure out which way is going to sit the best for these soldering connections, so none of my wires end up inside the drivetrain at all.
And we're going to more than likely snip this off here too.
Oh, right, yeah.
And end up putting, I believe he wants to run, yeah, we're going to put the original.
I'm going to put the original Traxxas connector onto the Hobbywing ESC, not because it's my preferred connector or anything like that, but it's the one I have, and it runs all the power batteries that I have for the car already. So at the moment, that's going to be the quickest way. And with the collector here to do the soldering for me and make sure it's done well, it's a good opportunity to get rid of the XT60 and put on the one that's going to work. Otherwise, I will kind of have to get another connector or new batteries. So at this point, now I know that my wires are going to make easy routing. I might have to clean it up a little bit once everything's installed. I do know from sticking things down with 3M tape, luckily it usually works pretty good more than once, because I stick it down once and then I change my mind, or I find out I made a mistake and I've got to pry it up with a screwdriver and stick it down again. So this all seems like it's going to plug and play pretty easy. Just need to get the soldering finished so that I can actually hook it up and run the leads coming from the ESC over to the transmitter box. One thing to mention is I'm actually robbing out of my sound kit that I have in my Gen 7. I'm robbing the Y connector for the servo, for the sound kit, for the power on that, to be able to hook up the fan that is on the Hobbywing ESC. The TRX ESC that comes out of this doesn't have a fan on it, so I had to find another source for power. So I'm going to split this guy, run it into the receiver box, have these two leads coming out, and then I'll be able to hook in my fan, the long black lead running into the receiver box will go back to replace the factory one, and then I have one left over when I get a light bar. So if this thing will allow me to, I'll try to run the fan and a light bar off of my battery and maybe hopefully not need a BSC or BEC. So we'll get this stuff all soldered in, guys, and get ready to install it, and we'll put you back on when we're ready to do that.
And then after we solder and start getting that on, we'll go over this. So, all right, guys. All right, so we got everything soldered. You can see it's soldered on, and then we got the solder that's soldered on. So
yeah, we've just been kind of bench testing everything on the car to make sure that it all turns on and works correctly, and went ahead and calibrated the throttle position sensors on the controller. And now have to unplug it all and weave it through the front of the receiver box before I install it all. So I'm going to get this stuff unplugged here and start figuring out the wire routing. Word to the wise, one of these leads that goes into your receiver box is all black, that comes out of the AX system. I had that thing in backwards and the collector recognized it and spun it around, but if you're used to following the black, red, white wire pattern and just matching the plug next to it kind of thing, you're going to have to try a little harder. So he recognized it and fixed it for me, and the thing works great. It calibrated the throttle settings right away, no problem. It's very simple, but if you plug it in wrong, it doesn't work. So I'm going to get this stuff unplugged and routed through the front of the box here, and try not to lose my place. Alright, so that guy. Okay, so if anybody else is doing the same swap I'm doing on a TRX4, the metal prongs that you can see for plugging into the receiver face outside. They face away from the center of the truck. So I'll try to use that as a thing to remind myself so that I can get this put back together correctly.
anybody that's dealt with these knows you have to, you have a little hole here, you have to kind of slide it in. You have a little box that you have to take off that's next to the actual receiver box that is just kind of an added waterproof measure, I'm guessing, because you can actually, when you first open these up, you'll see that there's actually grease in there, and of course we usually apply, marine grease or other grease to it, but that's why that little box is there, and you have to feed all your wires underneath there, and it can be kind of a pain in the butt.
And I'm also noticing this fan wire is going to have to go under the battery box to reach that Y connector. Either that, or every time I open up the battery box, the leads are going to be over the top of it. So there was a single wire when I cut out the factory TRX system.
What about maybe
using those holes?
No, because then your battery would pinch on it. I mean, you could use the lower ones, but then your other smaller battery fits underneath there.
Yeah, well, and when I took it apart, pulled these two screws here. They're 2mm screws, hexes, and they lift the tray up, and there is one of the leads running from the ESC to the transmitter, the receiver box, was zip tied underneath it here. So I think I'm going to use their idea and follow the same wiring plan, because they do include two tiny little zip ties. I think I'm going to do that, because even though I do want to pull this out of here at some point and put it in a different truck, it's not going to be for a while, so I don't mind securing the stuff a little bit better. But when you loosen those two screws, this thing will just pop up far enough that I can get this wire underneath of there. And hopefully it ends up, yeah, that'll reach just fine. And the zip tie is still there that I clipped before, so I'll just re-zip tie it to that spot.
It's amazing that it stayed in there the whole entire time.
Well, I couldn't hardly get my cutters in there either, so once I got it cut and got the wire out, I kind of just left it. But I will do this one better. Maybe. Jeez. I don't feel like I have fat fingers, but working on these things, all of a sudden I have fat fingers. Okay.
That's the cousin's dog, Cooper. You've seen him in a couple other videos. Cooper. Cooper. Stop scratching yourself, say hi. Not to me.
Stop scratching yourself, say hi. Alright. I'm actually going to route the black wire underneath the battery tray as well. Looks like that will not be too bad. There's 2 points to zip tie to underneath it here, so I think I'll use them both.
I had previously recorded, I went ahead and mounted or installed my front brass bumper mount, and it's also designed for the servo winch or winch system. It comes with some cool attachments. That wasn't going to be part of this video as well, but we're actually going to go ahead and separate them and make them 2 separate videos because that way I can, focus a little more on the independent stuff. And they're kind of long, so we knew you guys didn't want to sit there for an hour listening to us talk and do stuff.
Right.
Unless you're into that stuff, then
I don't even want it to take me an hour. Just believe me, it annoys me too. All right, so I'll feed this back through. That guy's there. So this is actually a really simple, pretty much bolt-on swap. With the exception of the soldering, and although it is frustrating to do the wire routing and stuff, if that's the hardest part, this is really a good put together system, and should work pretty good. Everything else seems to be done the right way. Okay. Yeah, it's always the last connector you've got to get in there. It causes the most pain.
So we're gonna go ahead and finish getting this all put together, so that way you guys don't have to suffer with the whole thing. And then we'll get it put together to the point where we can actually run and test it, and then he'll go over also the that other little thing that I showed that's up here. Yep. But yeah, well, so that way we're not boring you, we'll go ahead and skip to that part. All right, guys. All right, so got everything connected, everything hooked up. We haven't actually turned it on to test it after that fact, so you guys will be the first to see that with us as well. Hopefully everything should go alright.
Yeah, it should go alright. I figure it's an opportunity also to, if you guys don't know what this bungee cord that's color matched to my car here is doing, it's a product from a DSM, and found him through Exo Caged RC's video, and he puts these really cool toe strap mechanisms on all of his rigs now, and so I kind of caught wind of it, and it's pretty simple. It's just a bungee cord that's attached right here next to the battery box, pinned down, goes to the back of the car through a pulley on a ball bearing. Just put one little hole through the bumper mount, screwed the screw right in. The cord then routes back up through the car, through the bumper, through the fair lead to this cool hook. It's actually way stronger than you might think as far as the hook's strength to hang off of stuff, but stretch it out. Obviously, the farther you stretch it, the more pull you're going to get, and at some point, it's going to start to pull the car. That's funny. That's the motor in ESC. It will not allow the wheels to turn. It's that strong. It won't allow them to turn.
So, and then the great thing about that ability. So what it's doing sounds like a duck
Yeah,
or
it does. I'm gonna
something.
have to check that.
So so the great thing about what this system kind of does is that it doesn't require any battery drain because it doesn't hook up. There's no motor. There's no nothing to it. It's just a bungee system. And what it does is it allows the vehicle to use its pull from the bungee to actually apply the vehicle to use its own strength to pull itself up obstacles. And then when it does, it has this cool feature where
Oh yeah. So like if, for instance, if this guy were anchored right here, and you had been coming up a rock face, as you get closer to your anchor point, you're obviously going to lose some pull pressure, but by that point your tires and car should be doing the job. But as you drive over the top of your winch point, you should let go, and this guy will spring back on its own, and most of the time jump up out of the way far enough where you don't have to go back to your winch point. You don't have to unhook and then wind a winch back in up to the tight point or anything like that. It snaps back and you can drive right over the top of your winch point and keep on going to the next obstacle. So then you can just, when it's time, pull it out again, grab the next one, put it back. It's really user friendly.
and we'll do some driving with this to show you that. And there's another one where we wanted to show kind of a climbing up the side of a tree. More just to how strong this is and the fact that it can actually hold the weight of this vehicle.
Yeah.
But so far everything hooked up. That system.
These are just 3M sticky tabs that are holding these guys down to the sidebar of the chassis.
Right. And then you're running a 3S in there, right?
Yeah, 1400 Traxxas 3S batteries.
He's using some
It's a shipping foam.
shipping foam, yeah, to weigh down the battery. 'Cause the battery is actually smaller than the. And then went ahead and zip tied the wires down there, and then it's going to put inside there somewhere. There we go. So yeah, go ahead and let's turn this sucker on.
Cool. 3S, fans on. Okay. Reverse motor. It's got a reverse spin on it. That's why it doesn't like what I just did. Yeah, it just tried to go backwards. All right. We're gonna pause for a second, guys. I gotta I gotta spin the motor reverse.
All right. Yep. Hey, how's it going? It's all right. We are back with this. It's been a couple days. Last time you saw it went. Well, I guess to you it's just gonna seem like it all happened all at once, but he had a little issue with I guess it was what, gearing.
Yeah, the gear mesh was off. I had the wrong size pinion gear that came with the Axe motor for the spur gear that comes with the Traxxas Sport. The TRX4-SPORT is apparently the only TRX4 that comes with a 38 or 39 tooth spur gear, and the pinion that was sent with the Axe system requires a 45 tooth. So I was actually able to go to a local hobby shop and do a pickup in the parking lot of the correct 5mm 16 tooth pinion that would match up with the spur gear that's in the car right now. So that's the gearing that's in the car right now, and now it works great, but it's been a little bit since we had you guys on. It's taken a couple days to get this part figured out, but the frustrations are over now, and now it's driving great. But
yeah, we were. He was actually fortunate enough to go to a local hobby shop, and it was like a pick up an order, or you kind of call online, or you called and then went and did a pickup kind of a thing. So
yeah, and then I called him when I was in the parking lot. He came out and had a card reader if I wanted to use a credit card or something, and he could take cash, and he was able to take any kind of payment, and it was done. So that was pretty cool that I was able to go and actually go to the hobby shop. Otherwise it'd be at least a week and a half or 2 weeks to try to get them offline. So,
and we support your local hobby shop.
Yeah, they did me. That's
right.
Pretty nice.
If you can, obviously. All right, so we'll go ahead and we're gonna turn it on, and probably, so that way you can hear it, so you believe us.
Yeah, it does work. I assure you, it does fine. Oh, except for there's no battery in it.
Oh yeah, kind of need batteries. And what radio receiver are you using?
This is the Dumbo RC 6 channel. I originally got it for my 4S Creighton, making the range better and the steering better and all the, all that. But I wanted the ability to do the crawl control with this axe system by turning up this dial right here, pushing the engine RPMs up a little bit to where you can, because the system doesn't drop off torque even if it runs into an obstacle, it just keeps crawling. You can put the engine RPMs up and it'll crawl automatically over whatever you can steer it over.
Nice.
But okay, so now we got the battery hooked up, good to go.
Oh, and he did reverse. You can see that there. He reversed his sensor and mounting area or mount.
Oh yeah, the transmitter receiver box. I spun it around because my servo wire and a couple of my other wires are too short to reach all the way around this side, and then also feed up into this catch here that pins the wires down and also keeps water and debris out. It's pretty specific on how you route it through there. So I spun this around, and I did have to drill 2 holes to line the screws up, but it was literally just punching 2 holes through this plastic tray on the side that matched the holes, spin it around, put it back down.
And then you also have here a light bar.
Oh yeah, and a TRX4 light bar that mounts to the bumper. It does have a little bit of interesting wiring, as you guys can maybe see here, these tiny little plugs. I was not prepared for plugging this specific light into just a regular transmitter or a regular receiver box. It, in the TRX4 Traxxas setup, requires its own light module that plugs in back here behind your ESC. All your lights go into that, and then power runs from there out of your battery or out of your receiver box. So these 2 mounting posts back here are where that light module would sit. So not having that and not wanting to go that way, I snipped part of the connector off and I stuck it in one of the extra leads I have coming out from the receiver box, and it turns on, works great. So I don't know if I recommend it at this point. I've only used it a couple times, so don't try it just yet. If it has a problem, I will definitely let you guys know.
I knew you put in, was that a 3S?
No, this is a 2S.
2S,
The 3S is charging, but
Okay.
let's still turn it on. And the fan comes on right away. I've heard a lot of people will disconnect the fan if they say you're crawling. You don't need the fan, it won't get that hot, but I don't really want to mess around yet with that kind of stuff. I'll leave it the way it is. It's not annoying.
And according to, I think you already brought up about the fact that you can connect it to a cell phone app, and you've already gone and done that and set this up for what you like.
Yeah, I would go through that with you guys, but there's already 2 or 3 videos that are done really, really well online by a couple RC people that show exactly how to go through the Hobbywing app, and it's very simple, pretty cool to use, and I have actually already made a couple tunes to this just on the fly by turning on the ESC, going into my phone, turning on Bluetooth, turning on the app. I can go in and change drag brake settings, punch settings, and all that kind of stuff sitting right next to the car in my backyard. I don't have to take anything apart. I don't even have to turn the car off. I can just turn the phone on and go into it and do it live. So the only caveat to that is you do have to turn the car off when you've changed your settings after you've hit save to get them to cycle through, turn the car back on, and then now your settings are saved and your changes are saved.
If it is something that, if we get enough, well, yeah, I tell you what, if we hit, just because we're, not huge yet, but if we hit 50 likes, we'll do a video on how to set all that up using the cell phone app. And
yeah, if you guys want to see it, I'll absolutely do it. I watched videos to learn how to do it myself, so there's some good ones out there. But if you guys want to see me go through it from what I had to deal with, I'll show you. I got no problem with that. That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. So,
but
or just comment down below.
Yeah, comment down below if you'd like to see me do that.
Yeah.
Another point that I want to make on this that app gives you is the ability to turn up the voltage coming out of an internal BEC on the ESC. It has an internal BEC or a voltage regulator or distributor to keep the voltage from making your lights dim and stuff like that when you turn your wheels or you punch the throttle. But at any rate, the internal BEC here can run the servo at either 6 volts, which is stock, that's what it comes out at, or you can bump it up to 7.4. So the tune I have on the car right now is running my servo at 7.4 volts because I do not have the light plugged in. If I plug in this light, the light cannot take that much voltage. It needs to go back down to 6, and then I lose a little bit of servo strength. But on the 7.4, it's pretty quick, and it's very strong. Yep, there's the Dumbo RC remote. But very, very smooth, very slow crawling. ability, much more strength, and ability to move slow than I had with the stock setup.
What you're hearing now is the fan. You can't even hear it.
Yeah, there's no radio whine, there's no high-pitched whine when the motor starts receiving power. It doesn't do that. If you go faster, you'll hear it just like any other motor ESC setup, but you're really only hearing the gears. You're not hearing the motor. It's very quiet.
I'll go ahead and hold it if you want to.
Yeah. And this is only on 2S, and I have the punch turned down so I can crawl a little bit smoother, but you can turn the punch up to 10. Right now it's at 4. So you can get up to top speed way quicker with punch, or I'm sorry, punch can go up to 9, but if you go up to 9, it's way more punch than that, and this is only running on 2S. Even in those settings, it's still running faster than it did stock. So it can do quite a bit more, but you don't have to, but this makes it go way faster than it used to.
Alright guys, well, thanks for watching. If you managed to survive, all the way to the end here, we appreciate it. Hopefully we're giving you guys some good and viable information, and if you want more and want more detailed stuff, you can go ahead and let us know in the comments, and we do our best to respond as quick as we can. So sometimes it takes a little more to find certain kinds of information, and but we do always do our best. So anyway, hope you all staying safe, and yeah, we have more videos coming, so stay tuned. Peace.